I'm Nate, 35, and last week, my dad cut me off mid-sentence, right as my daughter took her first steps, after beating cancer. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stared at him. Because when a moment that should have been carved into joy gets bulldozed by ego, you stop reacting. You just absorb it. Like a punch underwater. We were in the backyard, a little party going on. Nothing huge. Just my wife, my daughter Lily, a couple of close friends, and yes, my parents. My dad stood by the grill like he was auditioning for a Father's Day commercial, tongs in hand, giving unsolicited advice to everyone within earshot. Lily, 3 years old and 26 rounds of chemo behind her, had been gripping the edge of a picnic bench. We weren't sure she'd ever walk without assistance. Doctors weren't even sure her legs would fully recover. But there she was, standing. Wobbling. Grinning like the queen of the world. I crouched down, phone in hand, whispering, "You got this, Lillipad." My wife, Jess, started crying before Lily even moved. And then, she did. One step. Then another. Like she'd been waiting to surprise us. The table went quiet. Everyone turned. She made it 3 steps before practically falling into my arms. It felt like the universe took a breath and gave it back to me. And that's when my dad, decided to speak. He cleared his throat, looked right at me, and said, "So, about that loan, when are you planning to pay us back?" I didn't respond right away. Partly because Lily was in my arms, still laughing. Partly because I genuinely thought I misheard him. But no. He doubled down. "I mean, we helped you out, Nate. A lot. You said it'd be a couple of months. It's been over a year. You're working again now, right?" I just stared. Because this wasn't just bad timing. This wasn't just tactless. This was intentional. Calculated. The man waited until the literal first moment of joy we'd had in over a year to drop his invoice. Jess went pale. My best friend, Marcus, looked like he was about to throw a lawn chair. My mom said, "Ron, not now," in that tone women use when they're trying to warn a man that he's about to make the local news. But Dad wasn't done. "You can't expect us to just forget about 10 grand. We're not made of money. And if you have time for parties, you have time to start figuring things out." I handed Lily to Jess. Stood up. Looked at my dad like I was seeing him for the first time. And I said nothing. Because there's a moment where silence says more than any speech. He blinked. Smirked. Like he'd won something. And that was when I realized I was done. Jess took Lily inside, still smiling for her sake, but I could see the storm building in her eyes. Marcus tried to lighten the mood by pulling out a speaker and playing some 90s playlist like we were all still in college. My mom suddenly became very busy with the fruit salad. And my dad? He just stood there by the grill, flipping burgers like he hadn't just stomped on the most sacred moment of our lives. I walked to the side of the yard, past the string lights Jess had carefully hung up, past the cooler of juice boxes and half-melted popsicles, and stared at the fence like it might offer me an escape hatch. Let me rewind for a second. That loan, he brought up. It wasn't a loan. Not officially. Not legally. When Lily was diagnosed, I'd already drained my savings on the first round of hospital bills. Insurance covered some things. Not enough. We had to relocate closer to a pediatric oncology center. Jess quit her job to be full-time mom and part-time nurse. I was freelancing whenever I could, editing wedding videos at 2 a.m., just to keep the lights on. We were drowning. My parents offered the money. "No strings," they said. "Just family helping family." My dad handed me the check like a hero donating to charity on camera. "We're proud of you," he told me. "You're doing the right thing." And for a year, I believed him. Until Lily rang the bell. Until she went into remission. Until the moment she took those impossible steps, and he used it as a cue to pull out the calculator. Back in the yard, I could feel him behind me. The clinking of tongs had stopped. I braced myself. "You don't have to be dramatic," he said. "I'm just trying to keep you accountable." I turned slowly. "Accountable?" I asked quietly. "You think now's the moment to talk about accountability?" "She's walking," he shrugged. "That's great. It means things are getting back to normal, right?" I stepped forward just once. Not threatening. Not loud. But close enough he had to look me in the eye. "She had a feeding tube in her nose 6 months ago," I said. "She lost her hair twice. She couldn't keep a popsicle down without puking. And the first time her counts were low enough for us to think we were going to lose her, you sent me a YouTube link about vitamin C. He opened his mouth, closed it. We're not having this conversation here, I said. He shook his head, the way he does when he thinks I'm being emotional. Which, let's be real, after what we've been through, being emotional is the least surprising response. It's just money, Nate, he said. No, I replied. It's never just money. It's when you decided to bring it up. That tells me exactly how much you think she matters. His mouth moved like he was about to fire something back. But for the first time, he hesitated. Good. Because this wasn't a fight. It was a funeral, for whatever version of our relationship still existed. That night, after everyone left and the paper plates had been trashed, I sat on the edge of Lily's bed while she slept. Her tiny chest rose and fell like a calm tide. Her stuffed giraffe was tucked under her arm. She still wore the princess band-aid on her knee from where she stumbled, her first skin knee, her first real step into childhood. Jess was in the kitchen, scrubbing dishes that didn't need scrubbing. I could hear her jaw clenching with every plate. I want to send him the check, she said finally. No hello, no warm-up. Just ice. I didn't answer right away. We don't owe him, I said. She walked into the doorway, towel in one hand. No, we don't. But I don't want him thinking we do. Ever again. I nodded slowly. Because the truth was, his words had stained the whole day. Jess had been rehearsing this comeback moment in her head for months. Lily's first steps were supposed to be her triumphant return from the shadows of pediatric wards and 4 poles. But instead, it had become another one of his stages. And here's the twist I didn't see coming. When I went to pull up our bank account the next morning, I saw a pending transfer. $10,000. From my mother. Memo. Don't let him ruin this. I stared at the screen for so long I forgot I was supposed to blink. She hadn't said a word at the party. She just played the silent peacekeeper, like always. But somewhere in the night, she'd made a choice. I called her. Mom? I'm sorry, she said instantly. I didn't know he was going to do that. I thought we were there to see Lily. I thought. She stopped herself. I thought he'd behave. I could hear her swallowing tears. I shouldn't have let him talk to you like that. It's not your fault, I said. It's a pattern. She was quiet. Then she said, I want you to use that money to take her somewhere. Somewhere with no doctors. No hospitals. Just swings and snacks. It was the first time in my life I'd ever heard my mother defy my father. And it was clear, this wasn't a bribe. This was a line being drawn in decades of sand. But before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from my dad. We need to talk. Don't let Jess poison Lily against me. I'm still her grandfather. And that was it. The real turning point. Not Lily's steps. Not the backyard standoff. It was realizing that to him, love had conditions. And I was done paying the toll. I didn't reply to the text. Not out of spite. Out of clarity. Because once you finally see someone for who they are, not the version you wish they'd be, you can't unsee it. You stop arguing. You stop hoping. You just move. The next day, I canceled the Father's Day dinner we'd already promised to host. Jess supported it without even blinking. We sent a group text. We're taking a break. Need space. Not up for visitors or conversation right now. I half expected my dad to ignore it. To show up anyway, grill tools in hand like nothing happened. But instead, he sent a reply that cemented everything. Wow. Overreact much? You know what, Nate, maybe we were wrong to help you in the first place. I didn't answer. But I saved the message. Because I needed a reminder. Not of his cruelty, but of the line I wasn't crossing again. We used my mom's transfer to take Lily to a lake 2 hours north. There was a tiny cabin with bunk beds, no cell signal, and a dock that made her squeal every time she threw a pebble into the water. Jess read paperbacks. I fished with a Barbie pole. Lily ate so many marshmallows her face was sticky for a full day. We didn't talk about my dad once. But something strange started happening around the 3rd night. My mom began texting, not long, guilt-laced rambles like I expected. Just photos. One of an old family album with my baby footprints. One of Lily's hospital drawing we left at their house, now pinned on their fridge. Then a final one, a picture of her standing alone on the back porch. The caption just said, I'm sorry it took me this long. It hit like a gut punch made of years. She was waking up. And that's when Jess looked at me from across the campfire and said, "You don't owe him anything. But you might want to figure out what you do owe yourself." I sat with that. Because the truth was, I'd been carrying this quiet ache for years. Wanting his approval. His respect. Just once, I wanted to hear him say, "You did right by her. I'm proud of you." But what I realized, staring at the fire with our daughter sleeping in my lap, was that I didn't need that sentence anymore. I'd already said it to myself. And for the first time in my life, I believed it. We got home from the lake 3 days later, sunburnt, mosquito-bitten, and genuinely happy for the first time in, I don't even know how long. The front porch had a box on it. No return label. Just a familiar, angry sort of neatness. Inside, a stack of manila folders, an old photo album, and a note in my dad's handwriting that read, "Since you've decided to erase me, here's all the crap you probably think I'm holding hostage." That was it. No. Love, Dad? No. We'll talk later. Just one last dig disguised as a gesture. Jess picked it up, thumbed through the photo album, and muttered, "He's still trying to control the narrative." I nodded but didn't open the folders. I knew what they were: medical receipts, bank statements, probably a spreadsheet with some passive-aggressive math about how much he'd invested in his grandchild's survival. I tucked them away in the hall closet. That story didn't live here anymore. What I didn't expect, what none of us expected, was what happened 2 days later. Lily had her follow-up appointment. Blood work, scans, the whole scary package. She wore her "I beat cancer and all I got was this awesome t-shirt" shirt, which she picked herself. I'd be lying if I said we weren't bracing for bad news. That fear doesn't vanish. It just quiets until it has an excuse to roar again. But the doctor smiled the kind of smile that said more than words. "Her numbers are clean," she said. "Better than expected. She's clear." Jess broke. Full-on crying, forehead on my shoulder, the whole thing. I held Lily in one arm and Jess in the other, and I swear, I could feel the universe pressing a soft hand to our backs like, "You're allowed to exhale now." That night, we made pancakes for dinner and let Lily put chocolate chips in the batter until it looked like asphalt. We danced in the kitchen to bad pop songs. And then the doorbell rang. I opened it and froze. It wasn't my dad. It was my mom. Alone. Hair still wet from the rain, a pie in one hand like it was still Thanksgiving. "I didn't call," she said. "I didn't want you to say no." Jess stepped beside me. Lily peeked out from behind her leg. "Hi, Grandma," she said like nothing had ever happened. And my mother, this quiet, apologetic woman who'd stood beside my father for decades, broke into tears right there on our doormat. "Can I come in?" she asked. I stepped aside. And that night, my mom finally saw the family her husband had tried so hard to ruin, and realized it was never his to control in the first place. She sat at our kitchen table like someone visiting a place they'd only seen in dreams. Her hands were shaking, her pie untouched. Jess made tea without asking, because that's the kind of person Jess is, and Lily climbed right into her lap like she hadn't missed a beat. No one said, "Where's Dad?" No one had to. "I wanted to come sooner," Mom whispered, brushing crumbs off the table like that would fix the past. "But I kept thinking if I did, it would mean choosing sides." I sat across from her, elbows on the table, heart thudding with something I couldn't name. Grief, maybe? Or just a tired sort of clarity. "You didn't come here to pick sides," I said. "You came here to stop pretending there aren't any." She flinched a little. Then nodded. "I thought I could keep peace by keeping quiet," she said. But silence just gave him the whole room. Jess leaned against the counter, arms crossed, and for the first time, she spoke up. Her voice was calm. Clear. "I love that you're here," she said. "I do. But if this is going to work, if you want to be in Lily's life, it can't come with conditions." Mom looked down. "I know. No guilt. No triangulating. No calling us when he wants something and pretending it's your idea. Just honesty," Jess added, her voice breaking slightly. "We've earned at least that." Silence again. The kind that either builds or shatters. And then my mom did something I'd never seen her do. She reached into her purse, pulled out her phone, opened a message, and showed me the screen. It was a long text from my dad, ranting about emotional extortion and how family is supposed to mean forgiveness, not financial betrayal. At the bottom, my mom had replied, "Then maybe stop treating your children like debtors." I'm going to see my granddaughter now. Don't wait up. I stared at the screen. Then at her. She wiped her eyes. I should have said something years ago. But I'm saying it now. She stayed for hours that night. Lily showed her the fort in the living room. Jess made popcorn. We sat on the couch and watched Finding Nemo, and when Dory told Marlin to just keep swimming, I could feel my mother breathing like she finally remembered how. And when she left, she hugged me tighter than she ever had. "I'm proud of you," she said. I didn't cry. Not until the door closed behind her. Because she wasn't just saying it for herself. She was saying it for both of them, and finally, it was enough. 2 weeks passed. No texts. No emails. No surprise appearances in my driveway with a lawn chair and a lecture. My dad had finally gone quiet. Which, if you knew him, was eerie. This is a man who once called me during my wedding toast to ask if I'd seen the rising gas prices. The silence was louder than any rant he could have thrown at me. And then, on a Thursday morning when the house smelled like cinnamon waffles and Lily was finger-painting the dog, I got a letter in the mail. Not an email. A letter. Handwritten. Sealed with that aggressive penmanship only boomers and sociopaths have mastered. I opened it at the counter while Jess was feeding Lily yogurt she clearly had no intention of eating with a spoon. I read the first sentence and sat down. Hard. Nate. Since I'm apparently no longer allowed to speak without being labeled the villain, here it is in writing. You've made your choice. You've chosen your wife, your daughter, and your own pride over your family. Jess saw my face and stopped mid-spoon. He wrote you? I nodded. Then kept reading. I gave you money because I believed in you. I gave you advice because I thought you needed guidance. You've twisted that into abuse. Congratulations. You win. You're the martyr now. Your mother wants to play grandma in the fairy tale you're writing. That's her decision. But don't expect me to sit back while you erase everything I did for you. When Lily gets older, I hope you tell her the truth, that her grandfather helped keep her alive. Even if now you'd rather pretend I'm a villain in your noble journey. I won't beg for space in your life. I'm not some dog waiting for a treat. I raised you. I paid for your college. I bought your first car. And if that wasn't enough to earn your loyalty, then I guess I failed. Enjoy your kingdom. I'm done knocking on the gates. It wasn't signed with love. Just Dad. Like a threat disguised as a closing. I folded the letter neatly and placed it on the counter like it might catch fire if I looked at it too long. Jess reached over and held my hand. Do you want to talk about it? No, I said. I want to reply. That night, after Lily went to sleep curled in a blanket she called her dragon skin, I sat at my desk and started writing. I didn't start angry. I didn't even start sad. I started from a place I'd never written from before. Done. Dad, you're right. You raised me. You taught me to work hard, to keep my promises, to never ask for help unless it was life or death. Then when life or death arrived, and I asked for help, you wrote the check, and attached a leash. You keep saying I've rewritten the story, made you the villain. But here's what I remember. I remember asking you to be there for your granddaughter when she was vomiting blood. I remember you leaving the hospital early because you had a tea time. I remember you telling me to man up when I cried in the parking lot. You gave us money, yes. But what you took back was joy, peace, presence, and the right to celebrate without owing you applause. You want Lily to know the truth? So do I. I'll tell her you were there. And I'll tell her you walked out when we stopped performing gratitude. You say you're done knocking on the gates. Good. Because the gates aren't locked. They're just closed to people who believe love is a contract. If you ever decide to come back, not with bitterness, not with lectures, but with humility, you'll find we never moved the house. We just reinforced the doors. I signed it. No. Love. No. Dad. Just Nate. And I never sent it. Because I didn't write it for him. I wrote it for myself. Life, after that, got softer. My mom started visiting every other weekend, sometimes just for tea, sometimes to watch Lily for an hour while Jess and I walked the block like teenagers on a first date. She never brought up my dad. Never tried to mediate. She'd learned, finally, that neutrality isn't kindness, it's complicity. Lily thrived. She started preschool. She bossed around her stuffed animals like a tiny CEO. Her hair grew back in little curls that made strangers smile in grocery stores. We framed a photo of her first steps, the moment that had nearly been poisoned, and placed it on the mantel. Not as a trophy. As proof. That joy survives. That love, when it's real, can withstand even the clumsiest attempts to bury it. I did eventually go through the folders he dropped off. Not because I wanted to relive anything. Because I wanted to catalog it. Document it. For the same reason you take pictures of scars, not to admire them, but to remind yourself how far you've come. A year later, on the exact anniversary of Lily's remission, we threw another party. This time smaller. Just Jess, Lily, my mom, Marcus, and a couple of neighbors who didn't care if the beer was warm or if the chips were off-brand. We lit candles. We danced barefoot on the lawn. Lily sang a made-up song about monsters who run away when you eat spaghetti. And sometime around sunset, when the yard was glowing and my heart was full in a way that felt earned, I looked toward the street. A black car was parked across the road. I knew it was his. Knew it like you know the shape of your own name. He didn't get out. Didn't wave. Just sat there for a while. Then drove off. Jess noticed. You okay? I nodded. Yeah. Let him watch. And that was it. No confrontation. No closure scene. Just a man who chose a car over a chair. And a son who, for once, didn't chase after him. Sometimes people ask if I've forgiven him. Here's the truth. Forgiveness isn't the same thing as access. I forgive him the way you forgive gravity after a fall. You accept what it is, stop trying to change it, and start watching your own step. My daughter doesn't remember the hospital. But she remembers the lake. The pancakes. The painting sessions with Grandma. The nights we all sat under a blanket and watched Moana for the 100th time because Grandma still cries at the shiny crab. She knows love. Not the conditional kind. The real kind. That's all I ever wanted. And I made it happen. Without a loan. Without permission. Without him. That's the ending. Not revenge. Not triumph. Peace. And it was worth every step.